they said it was impossible. 15 of the brightest engineers in the country had tried, tested, and failed to solve the problem that was slowly tearing apart a billion-dollar company. But no one expected that the answer would come not from a professional, not from an expert, not from someone with degrees or titles, but from a simple woman whose hands smelled of baby lotion and whose only job description was nanny. What happened that day not only shocked the CEO but changed the course of his life and his company forever. Adrian Malik was no ordinary man. At just 38, he was the CEO of a multinational tech firm that had once been the pride of the city. But lately, things had been falling apart. Investors were restless, competitors were catching up, and most painfully, Adrian was a single father raising his 6-year-old daughter, Alina, all on his own. He had lost his wife in a tragic car accident 3 years earlier, and since then, his life had become a storm of boardroom meetings, sleepless nights, and the quiet, unspoken guilt of not being able to give his daughter the time she deserved. That's why the nanny, Maria, was so important. She wasn't just a caretaker, she had become like family, filling in the warmth Adrian often couldn't provide. The company's crisis had begun with a new security system they were trying to build. It was supposed to be the crown jewel of the firm, a groundbreaking device that combined artificial intelligence with human intuition, something that could predict system breaches before they happened. Governments wanted it. Banks wanted it. The entire tech world was watching. But the engineers had hit a wall. No matter what adjustments they made, the system crashed at the same point every time. The 15th engineer had just walked out of Adrian's office, shaking his head, muttering that the problem couldn't be fixed without rewriting the whole system from scratch, a process that would take years, cost millions, and likely destroy the company's reputation. That night, after the 15th failure, Adrian sat at his massive oak desk, his head in his hands. The city skyline glittered beyond the glass walls of his office, but to him, it looked like a cold, mocking reminder of how far he could fall. His daughter, Alina, tiptoed in, clutching her teddy bear, whispering, "Daddy, are you okay?" He forced a smile, scooping her into his lap. "I'm fine, princess. Just work." But she could tell. Children always can. Maria, the nanny, stood at the doorway, watching quietly. She had seen this scene too many times, Adrian drowning in stress, trying to hide it behind smiles. "May I?" Maria finally asked, stepping into the office. Adrian barely looked up. "Maria, it's complicated. It's not something you can help with. 15 engineers couldn't fix it." He tried to wave her away, but she gently placed Alina on the couch, tucked a blanket around her, and walked toward the desk. Her calm presence was disarming, almost motherly, and Adrian sighed, pushing the laptop toward her. "Fine. Take a look. It's just code and systems you won't understand." Maria studied the screen. She wasn't an engineer, true. She was a nanny raised in a small village, with no fancy degree or technical background. But what she had was something most experts lacked: patience, intuition, and the ability to see things simply. She leaned closer, squinting at the endless lines of programming, then quietly asked, "Why does it keep repeating this loop? It looks like it's chasing its own tail." Adrian blinked. "That's actually not far off, but it's deeper than that. We've tried everything." Maria didn't argue. She simply clicked one line, deleted 2 repeating commands, and then pressed run. The screen flickered. For a moment, Adrian thought it was going to crash like before. But then, the impossible happened. The system stabilized. No errors. No failure. The program that had defeated 15 engineers worked flawlessly in less than 30 seconds, because a nanny, with no formal training, had dared to see the problem differently. Adrian's jaw fell open. He checked the code again and again, unable to believe his eyes. How did you do that?" he stammered. Maria shrugged softly. "Sometimes, the answer is simple. But experts make it complicated." The next morning, news spread across the company like wildfire. The CEO's nanny had solved the problem. Some laughed, others didn't believe it, and many of the engineers felt insulted. But Adrian wasn't laughing. He was humbled. For the first time in years, he felt something shift inside him, an awareness that brilliance doesn't always wear a suit, that wisdom doesn't always come with degrees, and that maybe, just maybe, he had been looking at life the wrong way too. He called a meeting with his board and explained the fix, crediting Maria openly. Some executives rolled their eyes, others were shocked, but Adrian stood firm. "This woman saved our company," he said with conviction. Investors cheered when they saw the prototype succeed, and contracts that were nearly lost came flooding back. The company was saved, but more than that, Adrian's heart had been touched in a way that numbers and profits never could. That evening, after the chaos settled, Adrian sat with Maria in the garden while Alina chased fireflies. He looked at her, really looked at her, not as an employee, not as a nanny, but as the woman who had not only rescued his company but also reminded him of something he had forgotten: humility, gratitude, and the beauty of simple wisdom. For years, he had been living like a machine, calculating, planning, building. But Maria reminded him to be human again. He asked her softly, "Why didn't you say anything before? You could have fixed it earlier." Maria smiled. "Because you weren't ready to listen. Sometimes, we only hear the truth when our hearts are quiet enough." Those words hit him deeper than any boardroom speech ever could. Weeks turned into months. Maria remained the nanny, caring for Alina with endless love. But slowly, a bond grew between her and Adrian, one built not on wealth or power, but on respect, trust, and shared humanity. Alina noticed it first. One night, she whispered, "Daddy, when Maria smiles, you smile too. I think Mommy would be happy." Adrian's eyes filled with tears. He realized his daughter was right. Eventually, Adrian did something that surprised even himself. At a company gala, standing before hundreds of investors and employees, he introduced Maria not as a nanny, not as a caretaker, but as the woman who had saved them all. "Greatness," he said, his voice steady, "doesn't come from titles. It comes from the courage to see differently, to love deeply, and to act humbly." The applause shook the room, but Adrian wasn't looking at the crowd. He was looking at Maria, who stood in the corner with tears in her eyes. The story of the CEO and his nanny spread far beyond the company. It became a story parents told their children, professors shared with students, and entrepreneurs carried in their hearts. It was proof that sometimes the smallest voices carry the biggest truths, and that wisdom often comes from unexpected places. And as for Adrian and Maria? Well, their story didn't end there. What began as gratitude blossomed into something more tender, more profound. Adrian learned to put down his work to join Alina and Maria in the garden, to laugh again, to feel again. The man who once thought he had everything: power, money, success, realized he had been missing the only things that mattered: love, family, and the humility to see that no one is too small to change the world. So the next time someone tells you that you're not qualified enough, not smart enough, not important enough, remember Maria, the nanny who solved what 15 engineers could not, and the CEO whose life was transformed because of it. Sometimes, the answers we seek are right in front of us, waiting in the simplest of hands.